Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our weekly review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm very excited to be here this week. Joining me, as always, we have from Smirking Gun Reviews, Mr. Rob Stone.
Hi, everybody.
Nice. And the far side, direct from the East Coast, from a dawn of ice and fire, Mr. Don Willie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be back for another episode of Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's get it going.
Yeah, all right. We got people already standing by in the chat. I've been watching you guys already start up the conversation. Corey, Rich Room, Silva Surfer, Kevin Waters. Welcome, of course, being here live. Always great to have you. So, yeah, definitely keep that going. We are going to jump onto those topics for sure. We'll refer back. But as always, let's start off with our little summary of this week's episode after before. With the return of an old future enemy and an old past enemy. A lot of enemies coming together and switching around. Well, Don, why don't you take it away? What did you think about this week's episode?
So, this week's episode, very interesting, obviously. We had the return of Daisy's mother, Jiaying. We got a right-hand man of hers who we hadn't seen before. We got young Gordon. We got Mr. Nathaniel Mallick with controlled Quake powers now, working with the Chronicoms. And Daisy has an older sister, possibly. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, we have the hijinks with the Zephyr being out of control and Yo-Yo finally getting her powers back in the weirdest way possible, and it felt like cheating. But yeah, we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, like I said, the I've noticed in the chat already the Yo-Yo power return discussion has come up, so that's going to be real interesting to dive into. Rob, why don't you give us your 2 cents on this week's episode?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of really cool things happening, and I guess I'm in the minority that I didn't feel the plot moved that much to me because it was mostly about getting Yo-Yo's powers back. And it's real testament. Like it's to get Jiaying and the Inhumans in here. I feel like the creators of this were playing a real long game. Mm-hmm. And they had this plotted out like a long time ago that how do we get this to happen? And it all hinges on Yo-Yo losing her powers and them going there to get them back. That's a long way to think about this because they were filming this like a long time ago. They took a little bit of a break and they went right back at it. And they were, so like you said before, 5, 6, and 7 are kind of one big season. And so it's a lot to kind of put on that one storyline to what a long way to pay off something that I do think was kind of resolved in a really weird way. But otherwise, like the return of Nathaniel Mallick was cool. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that because is he going to be like a Legion type character and have like all these things inside him, or is he going to spread it out? Yeah, Sousa and his leg, I love that, and the touching moment that Deke had when he overheard Gemma leaving a message for, pretty much brought me to my knees again. So yeah, there's a lot to go. That's a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah. No, that definitely left me all very gooey-eyed while I was watching that. I love the small stuff that Jeff Ward's been able to do with Deke and how they've used the characters, kind of playing some like emotional points really strong, whether it be the power of friendship or not letting people go. Because again, opening up this episode with him going after Mac, I thought was another real strong kind of emotional point of throwing down like, hey, we can't let him do this. I've been there before. Just give me very insistent which is different from his normal playful style. But yeah, I love this episode. I mean, I was expecting things to start ramping up as we were going towards this back half, and they seem to kick off things really well. First off, as Kevin Waters here in the chat mentions, the Thor Ragnarok style title card, which is my favorite so far for this season. Totally beautiful. Also, I do want to be sure to correctly pronounce Jiang. In my review, I tend to get very fast, and I was shoving those two syllables together, making it sound like Jiang. And I know it's two syllables, Jiang. I just get very excited. So, yeah, my apologies for all my viewers who are wondering who the heck I was talking about. But yeah, also, I did want to mention Lee, played by Byron Mann. Who I love. It was great to see up. I remember he was back recently in Hell on Wheels. The final season is Chang, the villain. He does a lot of villain stuff, but if you guys don't know who he is, he's been around forever.
The Expanse.
Yeah.
The Expanse, yes, Admiral
Wynn. Yeah. Oh my God.
Was in Woo Assassins for the one season, but as I said, tons of stuff, and actually has worked with Ming now before, way back in 1997 Street Fighter. He was Ryu.
Oh my God.
Chun-Li.
Oh my God.
Oh man, I completely forgot that.
I mean, so I remember her from the moment I saw her as Chun-Li. I forgot he's. Oh wow.
Yeah, no, someone on Twitter had posted that up. I wish I had taken a note to give them full credit because, yeah, I was trying to go over his filmography and someone had popped that up, and I was like, oh my God.
You know what? Because it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but the moment you mentioned it, I'm like, that was him. Oh my God.
Yeah. So interesting for a legacy season that Ming and Byron Mann get a chance to reunite and work together again. More, I guess, antagonists than allies this time, but still a very cool small little bit. Yeah, Don, you were about to say something.
I mean, you know what? Just thinking about the way that they have set up this season, we've been saying it all season long that this is their version of Endgame, and it's like every episode they just cement it more and more. You know, bringing back old characters, getting to see younger versions of different characters. You know, interactions that we've seen before get to play out in different ways. You know, getting to meet characters who were only cameos before. Now they get to be full on in an episode like with General Stoner. I mean, you know, Sousa being along. I'm like, man,
General Stoner.
I mean, you can't, you really can't ask for much more with a season like this. That doesn't mean it's perfect, though.
Okay,
that doesn't mean it's perfect. And like I said before, I felt that there was a cheat in this particular episode. And that cheat was Yo-Yo.
Yeah, let's get in. Let's just get right into that because I think that is a point that the chat is hitting on. You mentioned before. I've definitely got a couple of notes. So yeah, Yo-Yo's journey to regain her powers. Simplistic.
So, I won't say simplistic, but I think it was a little bit of a cheat that now all of a sudden, you know, she doesn't need to snap back. You know, she's just like she was like, oh, you know, I always snap back, and now I'm realizing that I don't have to. Oh, I could have done this all along. I'm like, really? Could you? You know?
Okay, so the modification of her powers to you is more of the cheat as opposed to how she lost it, how she's got them back.
Right.
Okay.
Because I can understand the whole being able to overcome the trauma thing. You know, it's like Spider-Man 2. when Peter loses his powers for all that time, and it's not until it's the very moment that, hey, if these spider senses don't work, me and Mary Jane are dead inside of this cafe kind of thing. When it actually kicks back in. And so I think it finally kicked in when it was the whole team on the line, and it was like, hey, well, look, this is all or nothing for everybody. So that part I can understand.
Okay.
The fact that now there was like, oh yeah, I'm just fast. It's not a thing of I go there, do what I need to do, and come back. That was the thing that kind of got me. It was like, why? So obviously there's gonna have to be something else later on. It can't just be that thing, because that didn't even work. They she removed the whatever that thing was from the time drive, and then it was still like, oh yeah, time drive still busted into the quantum realm.
Right. Yeah. Well, they've got to do their jump within a jump, which I guess would be an interesting way of describing a Groundhog Day effect, which by preview seems to be what we're going to be looking at next week. Well, yeah, let's hold on though. Let's stay our focus on Yo-Yo, because interesting you do that, because one of the comments that I had seen a lot was more along the lines of how she got it back. I mean, for me, once she did her old eternal discovery, and May was like, well, you just have to forgive yourself. I was expecting the "and now you know" sign to be flashing across the screen. And I was like, no, this can't fix it. You can't just go, you just got to figure yourself. Yes, you're right, I do. I was glad at least they took it a little bit more there. But also the idea of the uncle. Silver Surfer mentions, didn't like the uncle we never met. Should have been guilt from her brother, who was someone that we did know. And that's the thing I've seen in comments a few times. The fact that with Yo-Yo, in order to cause this, especially for such a legacy season, they connected it to this event that we know nothing of, with these characters we really know nothing of, that is long before she even manifested her powers. And I think maybe that's part of where part of my issue was, is she didn't lose her powers because, if it's in her mind, because she misused them or there was some regret attached to them. It just seemed to be from the Shrike and then fallout, kind of mental after that. So yeah, I don't know. Rob, do you have any thoughts on either, the introduction of our new character to fix things, the kind of in your mind trope that they mentioned before?
Well, like I said, to me it's real thin. It was a real thin thing to make a situation happen. So they figured out how to, why we needed to get her to the Inhumans. But then I think it got real thin when they decided, how do we get him to come back? And they spent more time on the setup to getting there than they did fixing it. And just saying, where she has, and I said, she has that House MD moment where, they just have a little May and her are talking, and it's like Wilson talking to House, and he just says the right sentence, and he's like, I gotta go. I just fixed it. I know how to cure somebody. And it just was like that. Oh, snap back. Oh. And then yes, the fact that it didn't even work. But it felt like a storyline that could have been in any previous season. It really felt like if they wanted to do this, they should have done it in 5. They could have done it in 5. They were, there's always a dire situation where they could have written that in and maybe resolved it in a couple of episodes, instead of really dragging this out just so that we could get to the Inhumans. And then just go, oh, I don't know really how to fix it. Just say it's in her head. And so we'll whip together this quick scene with her father and her brother. And, oh, look, see, it's because she took something and went back. And that's just real thin to me. Sure. It's nothing against the actress, because I really like that she got an arc, but it just felt really thin. And I know this show is better than that. Like I said, I called it a million years ago, it feels like, when I said she's just got the yips. She's got a little bit of a mental, and she's going to need to have one major thing happen, and boom, that's exactly what happened. And they're always better. Like their solutions to things are always better than what I come up with. And this time, when I came up with it, I'm a clever guy, but I was like, this wasn't very well thought out.
Yeah. Speaking of actually good alternates right here, the Rich Room mentions out the plot point of Yo-Yo wish they had stated that the fear residue from the Shrike might have played into the storyline. That's an excellent idea, Rich.
Yeah.
Because that would make sense why it would heighten something and just sort of, have that kind of additional effect.
Well, I think another thing they wanted to do...
They threw that all out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing they wanted to do was also... remember, Ming-Na was hurt the past 2 seasons, so she couldn't really do as much physical stuff. And I think she wanted to get back to doing some of that. I was like, we need to have a reason to have, to show off that she can do all her kicking and punching like she used to again.
Oh, yeah. If you've got a Ming-Na willing to do stuff, you take advantage of that. You do not let that sit by at all. So I completely agree. Devontae Smith here in the chat also mentions, if Yo-Yo doesn't return, she has quickly become the most powerful Inhuman on the team. Yeah, because that limitation does sort of rein in her power. Now she is kind of just super fast. And I want you guys to think back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull it up. But last season, someone had mentioned that when she tried to save Keller, or when she killed him, she didn't snap back. She used her powers, but didn't snap back. Now, I thought she had grabbed the knife and then came back. But they might have sort of played in that idea of her not snapping back, and then maybe that being some idea to connect on. I did like the fact during the fight she was playing on the fears of Keller's death and killing Ruby, which she didn't want to do, and those types of regrets. Those were cool because we understood them as audience. We've seen those journeys. We've seen the pain that they've caused up. I think that's why when they went, no, it was this thing when you were 8 with this uncle we've never talked about. That suddenly everybody was like, why is it that? Why is this the one? So, yeah, I do agree. I love the point that they have. I love the fact that it got us back to Afterlife and the whole encounter with Jia Yang and even, and obviously with Nathaniel and connecting in that additional storyline. Now it's a nice way to sort of link all of that up. But yeah, it's like once they got to the point, they're like, okay, so she's just better, right? Okay, good, great, let's do that.
Well, you know what? There seems to be a little bit of a plot hole when it comes to Afterlife. I don't know if you guys caught it, but if you remember the episode where they actually show that she was captured by Hydra, it said that she was basically in the same village that she was back in the 40s when they captured her. And remember, when Daniel Whitehall captured her, that was 1989.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is 1983. Like, why is she back? Why is she in Afterlife and not in the village then?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like you designed this transition. Go ahead, Rob.
No, it's one of those things that I kind of thought about for a second while I was watching it. Like, does it really 80? I would have thought by then. Wait, wasn't she back in the village with her husband and doing all the? So yeah, I absolutely agree that there's a little bit of a plot hole there, definitely.
Well, there may not be, and that may be something that we actually learn up. Maybe not next episode, because next episode looks like it's very Daisy Coulson centric. But that may explain why we have these differences. I mean, one, obviously, Jia Yang's very old. She's been around for a long time, and she has mentioned as sort of being a counselor to her village and people. So perhaps she has done an afterlife thing previously, and she goes back and forth. So afterlife may not have just been established afterwards. Also, all the timelines have been changed. I don't recall hearing about an older sister. Now, admittedly, in season 2, it's not like Daisy and her mom had a whole lot of catch up on family history time, and of course, Daddy's memory got wiped after that. So there could have been a whole life and a whole series, and if she was dangerous and did end up killing herself, this is something that all happened before Daisy was born, because again, she's born in 88, and we're 5 years earlier than that. So these things could have occurred, and we just weren't aware of them. But it's also the timelines changed.
Well, there's that, but then the other thing I was thinking, could she have been saying daughter metaphorically, like adopted daughter? I mean, because Jiaying basically was the leader of all the Inhumans in Afterlife. So it's like...
I think they're implying that she's an actual daughter. And again, a long life, it doesn't mean that she didn't have family before. We just didn't know of this. Devante mentions that she's an Afterlife because she left to be with Cal, who couldn't live an Afterlife because he wasn't Inhuman. Again, all possible. But what I'm also thinking with our show up of Nathaniel is perhaps he's been hunting Inhumans. Perhaps Daisy gave him a taste, and this is what has caused Afterlife. This is why there is such a lockdown, why Lee was so paranoid about things, is perhaps these are all results of effects in the timeline that's happened while the team's been jumping and doing other things.
Could very well be. It is a little confusing, but trying not to go out of my way to poke holes in it.
Yeah.
Just again looking at the possibilities, because and I wanted to use this as the sort of transition, because that does sort of get us to Nathaniel, who shows up with Quake's powers. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I kind of figured that they were gonna, leave him with Quake's powers. I mean, look, we all knew we were gonna see him again, right?
Right.
There was basically a back and forth of whether or not he's still going to have the powers, and I kind of leaned on the side of he's going to have them, but he shouldn't.
Okay.
It just seemed a little quick that he takes some blood and some spinal fluid and couple of glands, puts it in a blender, sticks it in an IV, and all of a sudden he's got powers now. But he got the powers, and I didn't think it was going to be a temporary thing. And obviously now it's been a few years. He's learned how to control his powers, and he's probably got help from Sybil with how to control them as well. Because if she... See, here's the thing I'm wondering about the Chronicoms, right? Because Chronica 2 got obliterated during our time, not in the future, right?
Correct.
So technically she's not from the future, but that's when the Chronicoms really know about the agents and everything that they can do. Like Yo-Yo and Daisy's powers, they really shouldn't know that much about them right now. That should be something from the future, which no longer exists. So I don't know. It's a little confusing. I'm trying not to sit here and be the guy that's like plot hole.
Right.
But every now and then something comes up, and I'm like, wait. How would they be able to help? But I don't. Maybe he isn't receiving help with Daisy's powers from Sybil. They haven't really explained it, so I don't know. Hopefully, he'll get another villain monologue where he gets to explain like how it was that he's able to still have the powers and how he was able to control them.
Right. Okay. Well, again, I've got a couple theories, but Rob, what do you think on this line here of Nathaniel's powers and all that?
I mean, I'm torn because like it's better that he's alive, in the fact that it makes what happened in the other episode where it just ended, more important now.
Mm-hmm.
That he didn't just have someone fall on him and he's done. But now that he's back, I'm also like, really? Because I'm just not a fan of the Mallicks as villains.
Aww.
Even if he is the wild card, I'm just not. I don't like any of them as
totally
nothing
fine
against the actors. I just like the characters. I just don't like the characters. And so when he's back and he's a power hog, and it's just classic. If it wasn't Whitehall, they found a different one. And whether or not he's gonna give them out or take them, I mean, I feel like he's just a guy that's gonna use everybody, what he wants. And it kind of makes me go, well, will he turn on Sybil now that he's got, the opportunity to get all these powers and stuff? I don't know. But
he's got a taste. It makes it hard.
Like you said in your review, I really don't know where they're going with any of this now. Because he's just like, let's just cause some anarchy. He's become the Joker now. So with powers.
Right.
He's just ready to spread chaos across the timelines. And will he, come to his senses? I'm feeling a little bit less and less like that is likely now. Unless it's more like I'm going to take them out with me. Chronicom's out with me. If I can't have it, nobody can. But and then his easily manipulation of the girl, where it's just like, oh, just come with me. Like he just kind of pulls a mental whammy on her and just like, oh, your parents aren't good. Oh, okay, they're not. I know she's had a tough life and there's a lot to read in between the lines for Cora, but the quick villain change that just at the end, and it took me a second to realize that she's her daughter, but I still just felt like the whole thing just kind of had a real quick. There was basically the attack was barely anything on the place. It was just one room, and we saw all these helicopters. Where are the rest of the guys? That's like a lot of people to be swarming that place, man. And there was like 3-4 guys that we saw.
That's right.
Like I said, for me, I don't like the Mallicks.
No.
So somebody's got to be the bad guy. It's fine.
No, I love it because you are totally point. We saw nothing of Afterlife, and I was excited because at the beginning of the episode, it was like, oh, were they saving kind of money on some of the previous episodes because we're having like the time jumps, the time freezes through, we're getting the ship doing cool stuff and flying sequences around. I mean, we had some awesome effects work done throughout the episode. But you're right. It was like, okay, so we only got one set and a hallway, and that's what we're going to use for all of Afterlife. You're right. It really did have that feel. and I noticed it, but it didn't totally register in that way with me. So that's a good point. I like you had mentioned Legion-like Nathaniel in his powers, and it's kind of funny because I actually thought about Legion and David's character, kind of the little bit in Nathaniel, that little bit of crazy, that let's play that almost offset a point of view of his, which might be why I actually like the character. I like his sort of unpredictability. But okay, here's my theory on what has happened here with the time change in Afterlife. I think that he didn't get Daisy's powers permanently, that he got a taste, and then he connected up with Sybil. Well, actually, once he got the taste, then he started looking for Inhumans. And when he connected up with Sybil, he got her technology in order to actually be able to successfully transfer the powers permanently to him. So I think that's what created Afterlife, is he's been hunting and preying on Inhumans. And I know there is an X-Men character, he's a mutant called Avalanche, who also has similar type powers. So I'm wondering if they might just do like, hey, I liked what you did. I love the taste of that. So I hunted the Earth down I knew there had to be someone else like you in the world. Or he could have taken other ones and sort of assimilated with. So I use that excuse because, yeah, I don't like him permanently taking powers out of a couple little fluid injections and protein drinks.
Especially the way that they left him broken, like, and bloodied, and like, even if the wood that fell on his head hadn't killed him, you'd have thought that just the quake powers alone would have just crushed every bone in his body to where he'd just been dead before anybody could even fix him.
Right, because he's not inhuman, so the powers not being inherent to him, he wouldn't have the ability to heal the way Daisy would. Because Daisy was able to actually, after a while, use the powers to heal the fractures in her bones.
Oh, yeah, because she had a whole giant arc of trying to control the shattering and stuff. So, yeah, the fact that Nathaniel would do that so quickly, you know, I don't like. But if he got the taste and used resources, and then he got Whitehall out and then did some play, and then Sybil shows up, because he does, when he's got Lee and the other Inhumans captured, talks about, you didn't do anything to deserve these powers. How about redistribution? Which makes me think he now knows how to take powers from one person and give them to someone else. And that's how he's sort of building his army. Someone else mentioned that he's kind of a version of Hive. And that is kind of a perfect bring around with that character. I like that.
You know, it's funny. Last week, I was saying that I think that he's going to wind up, that he's going to wind up turning on the Chronicoms and realizing that maybe he shouldn't be the bad guy. And then this week, after seeing this, I was like, no, that's out the window. You know.
Yeah. He's got a taste of the power, man. He's not going to want to give that up. He's going to use Sybil as much as Sybil's trying to use him. They might prey on each other just because they want different things, but I don't think it would be as from an ally, you know, as like seeing the error of his ways point of view.
Yeah, he is not.
And if he is able to create like a little army, sorry, Don, if he's able to create a little army of powered people, that is definitely something that could pay off really huge in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people with powers. I'll say what I think later on, like at the end of this video, but like it has some potential for some really cool stuff that I think might happen.
Just to be real fair, Devontae did make that comment about Nathaniel being a different version of Hive. I want to be sure to correct everyone. Rich Room, Jedween and Marissa were in charge of the human show all along. You take that back. Don't ever bring up that name again in this show. Sorry, Inhumans, they're great characters. The show was, if you want to see me rant for 9 episodes, go watch my old reviews of that.
What show? What Inhuman show? What are you talking about?
It was an alternate timeline that I am hoping that with all of these adventures gets permanently erased.
The darkest timeline.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw that in IMAX at the theaters. It hurt. It hurt.
Ooh,
anyway,
I couldn't get past the second episode.
Sorry, any Inhumans fans I know, there's all this hate coming through here, and it's just because the show deserves it. I'm sorry. I'll stop. Let's move on.
I feel sorry for the people of Hawaii that they were subjected to that show being associated with that island.
Yeah. Okay, so let's sideline over here to Sousa and his leg. Because I believe we were mentioning before, I always thought it was just a wounded leg. I never thought that he had lost his leg. Maybe they had mentioned that in Agent Carter at some point, and I've just forgotten it. I will accept that lack of knowledge on my part. But how sweet of Gemma. Yeah.
I think, because I watched Agent Carter, and I think he just had like an old school kind of like really old version of a, like not a peg leg per se, but like it just wasn't a very good prosthetic.
Yeah, it's
He
basically
wasn't
just
walking around like, yeah, and that this was finally his chance to get a new leg. We didn't actually get to see him put it on or use it, but we did see it in the case. So
we
yippee.
did see him use it
At the very end,
at the very end.
gets back in the chamber, he kind of flexes,
Oh yeah,
his leg.
And does what I
Yeah.
guess is Sousa's new job is to watch Daisy in the chamber. We've had
Yeah.
several shots of that now of Sousa sitting there watching Daisy in the chamber.
You know what? I see a lot of people shipping Sousa and Daisy. To me, I don't know. He seems a lot more like Uncle Sousa to Daisy than he does, possible boyfriend material.
Oh, I totally agree. I don't necessarily. I know some people have shipped them, but I see them really more as partners, not partners.
Yeah, to me, it's like Mac is big brother, Coulson is pops, and now Sousa is uncle.
Yeah. Oh yes. Corey mentioned. Yeah, I know that. Sorry, I want to find the right quote right here. And it's the chat's moving around. I know that Whedon and Marissa did not did not showrun Inhuman show. That was Scott Buck, which Rich is mentioning here in the chat. Scott Buck also did the first season of Iron Fist. If you would like to see the quality that a Scott Buck production brings to you, never hire this man again.
Yeah, I don't understand how he keeps getting work.
How do you do first season of Iron Fist and someone goes, yeah, man, let's have you take this other new show too. It has even more effects. It's crazier than that one. Sorry, I'm going to go on a Scott Buck rant here in a minute. Pull up.
All roads lead back to the Inhumans.
Yeah. But yeah, it was very sweet of Gemma getting Sousa a leg. And we were kind of hitting a lot of points of Gemma trying to save people even when everything is falling apart. I think Daisy makes a mention of like that. It's like, you can't save everyone. She's like, well, I can try. She's, last minutes, the ship's falling apart. She's getting Sousa a leg. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with Gemma emotionally here. I'm feeling very motherly and caring from her point of view. I mean, not that she's not a caring individual, but I kind of like seeing this side of her.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though, because you still have Deke calling her Nana, which is the weirdest thing possible, because I mean, like, it's like, yes, she is very aware that Deke is her grandson, but it's like, yo, dude, it's just weird, man. Like, you're damn near the same age.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, I like that. I love, again, we had another great callback there when Sousa was talking about being a parachutist, and Gemma's like, have you ever jumped out of a plane? Twice. Only the second time with a parachute. Yeah. I just love these little callbacks. We're like, oh yeah, I remember that in season 1. So yeah, all right, let's see. I want to try and go through all my little notes on stuff. So yeah, we have some issues with the time drive on the ship. Again, it was sort of the background stuff and really just the MacGuffin of this episode. But kind of a cool thing from an acceleration standpoint of pushing the storyline. It gives us a countdown. It's obviously setting up next episode. Kind of a pain that they do all of these things to try and stop it, and yet it does what it was going to do anyway. I don't know. Does that make the whole journey to stop it useless and pointless? I mean, outside of Yo-Yo getting her powers back, it was like, well, you got to stop it from happening. But we need it to, because we've already written an episode about it.
I mean, there's
like I said, it felt like all set up to get to Nathaniel finding the Inhumans, taking powers. We needed to get there. They used her lack of powers to have a reason to go there. Like I said, they had that set up from a long time ago. They had to have. And then it doesn't make it less important. It just what affected me was then when I saw the promo for next week and saw that we're doing, the Groundhog Day in space, which is great, which is fine, but like it just kind of lessens that whole thing to me, where it's like it's set up for the future, but then when we don't do anything with it the next episode and we go off and we do another kind of kooky to fix this problem now too, instead of dealing with the problem that we've just set up, that part kind of bugs me.
Listen,
just a little bit. Just a little bit. You've got momentum, and then you're going to sidetrack it to do that story.
Listen, as long as they don't do it like Legends of Tomorrow did last season, or whenever the hell they had their Groundhog Day episode. Oh God, how is that show still on? Anyway,
I don't know. I stopped watching it 2 seasons ago.
Oh God. Anyway, the thing that I'm hoping is that Yo-Yo's powers being different now. Well, but then again, no. This episode looks like it's going to be basically father-daughter time again with Daisy and Coulson. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm wondering how this is all gonna work together. I mean, look, have they really let us down so far?
No. They do keep everything
it's not about letting us down. It's about just kind of story structure. Like I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. It's going to be entertaining to watch. I'm trying to look at it from different perspectives, and for me, the story perspective is you've got momentum. Follow that momentum. Don't go all of a sudden into another side story that kind of maybe has some information that we need. And again, it speaks to we needed a longer season. We didn't get it. And so they're jamming so much in there that it just feels like we're not going at full steam yet. And when by the time we get to the finale, because I started counting episodes, after next week we've only got 4, and 2 of those are the finale. Well, so there's a lot still to jam in there, and I think that's just one of the main. Like if we had gotten maybe 3 more episodes to make it 16 or something. Maybe this would have been a little more acceptable as far as like story wise, but and like I said, it doesn't take away from the entertainment value. I also want to mention to Devontae, yes, season 2 of Iron Fist was better than season 1. Scott Buck wasn't the showrunner. It wasn't perfect, but it was much better. I agree. I just wanted to make sure that was said in there. And before I also forget, Corey, no, these aren't for social distancing. This is just me being a nerd. Wanted to cross something off my bucket list.
The thing I was gonna say though with regards to this whole thing is they were probably sitting around, right, and thinking Avengers was able to do this in 3 hours. We got 13. Come on, man. We can surely pull off Endgame in 13 hours.
Okay. Well, see, actually, you guys sort of allude to an interesting point here with momentum and stuff, because I have to kind of agree with you on that, Rob. This is sort of starting up a lot of momentum. We're setting up with the Inhumans and Zhang and stuff to veer off for an hour to dive into what will, I'm assuming, despite its action, is also going to have its own legacy. We're going to have Daisy and Coulson together. We're going to have those flashbacks. We're going to have that kind of personal explore. It feels like one of those personal exploring arcs, which I think is great. And I love the fact that they're doing it with such main characters from the very beginning, with Daisy and with Coulson. Does this, like last week, we just had an episode, which is, again, the suspended rock in the arc of this season. That was the sort of playful, we'll have a little Deke and we'll have some storylines and some Mac bit. Does it feel like why did they spend 2 episodes if they're going to do kind of this introspection? Now, again, we're only theorizing with what next week's going to be. It could be action nonstop and full of story and plot and all sorts of things. But if they were going to do it, the Coulson Daisy episode seems to be a better time to focus that energy onto things, as opposed to someone, as much as I love Deke and Mac, not quite as major characters through the whole. I mean, Mac's been through 2, so I mean, he really is pretty much in with the group. But I don't know. Again, I'm just sort of throwing off sort of that idea of like, if we just spent an emotional exploratory arc episode, do we need to do another one, like you said, when there's only 4 episodes left after that?
I mean, well, this one seems like it's going to be more of a horror-based episode. So maybe, you know, they're trying to give character moments with certain themes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the Mac and Deke one was, you know, your 80s you know, shoot 'em up action comedy kind of thing. This one was more of your action adventure, but it's also, you know, the broken hero that needs to crawl back from the abyss in order to, you know, in order to save the day. And then next week is, it seems like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Halloween.
So you're looking at more of the leaning into which they did start the season end, is the genre approach. Each episode is not just in a timeline, but also in that genre, which makes sense. We had our film noir episode, and we had our 70s action, you know, throwback episode, the 80s horror bit. This would be, a Nightmare on Elm Street, a Scream, a something. I like the Nightmare on Elm Street comparison. That does seem to work a little bit better, especially mid 80s as they are.
Yeah, so that's, you know, the thing that I was thinking about that one.
I also think then if we're going by what we're, you know, that the last episode was Deacon Mac's arc.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's their one. They get the focus pushed on them. Then this week it was Jia Ying. Yo-Yo. And then next week is Phil and Daisy. So then if we go by that, then the next 2 episodes could be like, one would have to be focused on May to give her, like, deal with her emotional and her empath powers that we haven't talked about yet, like how she can be and not even touch people now. But so focus on her becoming, like, getting Melinda back to wherever she needs to be. So that would be a whole episode. So that knocks down. So now you got 3 episodes. And then who's left? Fitz and Gemma. To what? You give them a 1 episode, and then you're in the finale.
Okay.
And then you've got this 2-part where everybody's finally back on track, ready to face the odds that are against them in this 2 big epic finale. And as difficult as it's going to look, at least the team will finally kind of be back on track, whether we have Fitz on the team or not. And I don't think we have to worry about arcs really for Enoch or Sousa, really. I think their stuff will get wrapped in the finale. But that's what it feels like, if that's what we're talking about, like how these things maybe aren't moving the plot, but moving character, so that the plot, all the big plots, all going to come out in 12 and 13. Now we've got little doses of the plot throughout all these episodes, little bit of movement, and mostly character stuff. But then it's just going to go all kinds of crazy in 12 and 13, which we already know it's going to. It feels like it's a shame that they had to jam them in when at the end, right when you have this momentum. When if it's a shame that they couldn't have done it earlier, in like the 40s and the 30s and the 50s stuff, instead of trying to push it all in here. They couldn't that way. If you wanted to do like a crazy Groundhog Day horror style, it'd be more fun, and you would have already gotten past that, and the team would already be working more cohesively. And, you know, you're just kind of like not jumping the shark because it's the last season, but then just saying, let's just try these things. And people, I don't know. I think that especially last week's episode would have been a lot more accepted by the audience if we weren't dealing with all this character stuff this late.
Well, Lily Mack says she hopes that I'm wrong, because that's not what she watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for. Not, wrong about the horror thing. I mean, listen, just looking at the preview, Coulson said he's going to watch each and every one of them die, one by one, and we saw, choking and blood coming out of one of their noses and all of this stuff. So I'm like, that to me seems like a horror episode.
Well, and horror and sci-fi do share a lot of very similar camera work and story approaches and such. So there are a lot of ties into that. And I think in season 5, we did a lot of great stuff with like the Vrexkelians. God, it's a tripping coming out of my mouth. And some of that type of stuff. And I think that was a kind of a nice blend of horror and sci-fi they did through that season as well. So, Corey, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s version of Alien. Yeah, see, something like that would be very cool. Also, if you want to get really horror... Sorry?
The first couple of seasons of The Expanse had a lot of horror going on.
Yes. But is it Event Horizon? If you guys really want to meld horror and sci-fi together and just freak yourselves out, that's one that I'll recommend that you go explore. And then watch a Disney episode or Avatar: The Last Airbender after that, sort of get yourself back up into a good mood. Let's see in the chat. Sorry, Rich is apologizing for mentioning Inhumans and Jed and Marissa and all of that. No. We're just playing. It's all love here. I mean, except for Scott Buck, we hate him, but everything else, no, it's all good. Let's see. Some concerns with Phil. See, Corey mentions, I saw asking if Phil's hard drive was affected by Sybil during the explosion. Is he infected because he seems more snarky and not sassy like before? With his line, what from the preview is how long did it take you to figure it out this time? And also, like you're mentioning, if he's saying something and watch you die over and over again, that does imply maybe, but it could also just be him, I don't know, maybe being thirsty for a year makes you re-examine your LMD existence. And now he's just like, if he's trapped in a time loop, he's just bummed out that he's seeing people die over and over again. I don't know. Corey,
what was with all the water? He's an LMD. Like, why was he so? He's an LMD. Why is he so concerned about drinking water? I mean, even right before they put him in, he's like drinking more water. I don't know if that's going to play into something in the next episode, but it just seemed really weird. I know that he says, "Oh, I hadn't had a drink of water in forever," but I kept thinking, okay, maybe that's just a kind of memory thing, or like he's trying to feel human, so he feels like he has these needs. But I would think, why does he have those needs?
Well, because he's still Coulson in his mind. And I think when he wakes up in an LMD body and it can still do human stuff, it's easy. I think with the idea there, the fact that he was this floating consciousness inside of a computer having no body, the mental concept of being thirsty just sort of would start to drive you nuts because you have no body to drink anything. That's where I was getting it from. With this is maybe a result of that, but you're right. It could be implying many different things, whether it be Sybil infecting him or his programming breaking down, or this is his depression setting on from not being the Phil he remembers being. I don't know. Obviously, we'll find out next week.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's see. Any other big things that you guys wanted to discuss, bring up, hit upon before we wrap things up tonight?
No, I think we pretty much touched on everything. This wasn't a big plot heavy. This wasn't a big plot heavy episode. Things were kind of streamlined. It was really like, okay, we got to get Yo-Yo's powers back. She's got to try to stop the time drive from screwing up. Oh, Jiaying is here. Daisy's got an older sister, and she's being manipulated by Nathaniel. I mean, that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, Coulson is growing his body back.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit of a MacGuffin hunt. I think, this episode. It was like, okay, this thing's broken, so we need to do this in order to get this thing in order to fix that. So hit those 4 points, and we're all good.
Yeah.
Look, as long as they don't go after a Sith Wayfinder, we'll be in good shape, okay?
I still haven't even watched that movie, and I don't plan to. Anyways.
I haven't either, but I heard that it was a big MacGuffin hunt.
Let's see. Rich is asking, wait, are we skipping the 90s in AOS? Wanted to see if we're going to do a Kree blood that was bringing Coulson back to a life post-Captain Marvel timeline. Yeah. I don't know how much they're going, because the Chronicom ship was destroyed, they shouldn't be jumping through time once they fix this time thing. But yeah, it does seem like I honestly, the more I see, especially the moment they gave Sosa his leg, all that told me was like, they're definitely heading to Battle of New York. If they've got the actor and he can run, at some point they've got to get that. It just feels like that's where they're heading towards. They're going to end it literally at the beginning. Again, which just sort of feels like where it's going. But again, that's my speculation going on here.
Okay, so I said I was going to say one thing at the end, and I was talking about the setup for having all those people with powers. Well, when you've only got a couple of people with powers, it means you need some people that can deal with people with powers. So I think if he's got an army, then our show can get an army of the people that we need back, like Mike Peterson as Deathlock. Mm-hmm. You know, we could get, like I said, I want Ward back. We need people that know how to handle. We could get Lash back somehow. I mean, if we can just pull people out of time, like Sousa, why can't we do that and have our own force of people that says, look, this is what's on the line. Have our own on your left moment where all of a sudden we've got our own team coming out at the right particular time to fight the bad guys that need to be fought. I don't know. It's kind of what I hope happens. I don't think it'll happen like that, but if it does, I would love to see them put together like kind of like a dirty dozen of characters that really have no other, you know, like it'll be a chance to say goodbye to some characters, maybe some redemption for some characters, good chance for some cool cameos, and just throw the budget out the window.
Yeah. I'll sign up for that. I will send my $5 into Disney to see that. And it makes sense. I mean, 5 was supposed to be the ender, and they did have the big battle between Graviton and Daisy, and they had some awesome looking stuff. If they just, you know, stepped up that and had, you know, your two forces really going after together and giving us a nice shield superpower agent fight, I would be happy however they ended the show after that. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. And you got to please bring back Kyle MacLachlan. Please bring him back. He would be so awesome as Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, rather. Dun, dun. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, I think we are hitting the hour point, so we will go ahead and wrap things up. Don, why don't you lead us? Tell us any final thoughts and, of course, where people can find you.
So final thoughts, you know, good episode, not the greatest, but you know, it's definitely look. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still one of the best comic book shows to ever be created. So I mean, come on, you can't expect a home run all the time, but I'll say this was at least a double. As far as where you can find me, you know, you can find me on my channel, Don of Ice and Fire. Hopefully I'll get back to streaming soon. I've been saying that for the longest, haven't I? But you can also find me on Twitter at iDonWillie. That's IDONWILLI. And of course, you know where you can find me Friday nights, right here on Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. with my mans Darren and Rob. So Rob, take it away.
All right. My final thoughts are like, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good episode. Not the best episode, but we got, you know, Yo-Yo's powers back, so let's use them. Hopefully, and I really am hopeful for next. As much as I talked about how, you know, plot and story and momentum, I'm really, really, really excited for next week's episode. Like as soon as I saw how they were doing it, I'm all on board for it. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to talk about it. As far as where you can find me, of course, at my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we're reviewing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Perry Mason right now from HBO. We're doing watch parties on Twitter. You can find me at reviews_gun. In fact, on my channel, on the community page, we're taking a poll for what to watch on the next watch party. If you go to my channel, go to my community page, you can vote for what we watch on the next watch party. And on Twitch at Smirking Gun Plays, right now we are playing Ghost of Tsushima, which is freaking amazing.
Nice. Well, want to be a big thanks to everyone that joined us live in the chat. We've got Devontae, Corey, Devra, Lily Mack, Frank Carnell, Barbaro, The Rich Room. Let's see everybody who is commenting. If I have missed you, I apologize. Yeah, you can, of course, always find me Friday nights here with Don and Rob talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I do the primary review very late Wednesday night, early Thursday mornings, right here on D's Reviews. At some point, we will be coming up with the finale of Walking Dead, whenever that decides to come out. So I can't tell you when that review will drop. But I can tell you that our big fan episode, we are actually moving up a week. The thing is the finale is 2 episodes back to back. It's 12 and 13 on the 12th of August. That's a lot to cover. We all may be very emotional, so we thought we would rather give a little bit of extra time to the fans the week prior to, and that way we can also talk about what we're hoping to see and our expectations. So that will be after episode 11, which plays on August 5th. So that will be Friday, August 7th. We'll have our big fan event here. I should have said this at the beginning of the episode. I don't know how many people are still listening, except for all of you in the chat, because you're awesome. But so yeah, we'll have our big fan episode on Friday, August 7th, just before the big 2-hour finale. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.